Today we're looking at two generations of Olympus 35mm SLR film cameras. On this side we have Olympus OM-1, the professional series, and on this side we have Olympus OM-10, the consumer series. The single-digit numbers, Olympus OM-1, 2, 3, 4, and X, are supposed to be the professional series. The double-digit ones, 10, 20, 30, and 40, are consumer-oriented cameras. However, in practice, when you handle them, they're all extremely high quality, and it's very hard to tell the difference between the professional and the consumer. But we'll go through each one of them and do a comparison. First, we look at this Olympus OM-1. We'll go through this in great detail, and I'll show you all the features and do a review. But first, some history. Olympus OM-1 came out in 1972. Originally, it was known as Olympus M1. However, there was a bit of a confusion about the M series cameras, Olympus versus Leica, M3, M6, and so on. There was a complaint from Leica, therefore Olympus very kindly decided to change that to OM, as in Olympus M series. There's a bit of speculation as to what M stands for. It may stand for a famous camera designer of Olympus, Mr. Yoshihisa Maitani, a very well-known designer. Mr. Maitani also designed this Olympus pen before the OM series, and it's a brilliant example of miniaturization and simplicity in cameras. This, by the way, is a half-frame camera and takes about 70 or so shots on a 35mm film. Here's another example of Mr. Maitani's design, another Olympus pen, very compact, very simple, and very beautiful. That came before the M series. Mr. Maitani also, later than this series, designed these iconic XA series, which are highly desirable, quite expensive these days. Let me show you with the flash taken off and the lens opened. These are very desirable now. So all of these were the handiwork of Mr. Maitani. OM-1 series started as a whole mechanical camera, not electronic. However, they have light meter inside. The battery only drives the light meter, not the shutter or anything else. So without a battery, they work fine. They're extremely reliable, and they have a number of innovations that I'll take you through. In the OM-1 series, there are several other models. One is OM-1 MD, which allows for motor drive to be attached to it easily without changing the base plate. Then after that came OM-1N, which is also a motor drive system, but it also has a flash-ready light inside the viewfinder. Now, this example that we have at the Tech Heritage Museum in beautiful black is exactly that model. It is the OM-1N, which has all the same features as MD, but with the additional flash ready. So this is the one that we'll be reviewing. OM-1 cameras are well known for being compact compared to similar cameras of the time, popularized by Nikon F series, for example, and later on Canon, so on. Those were bigger, bulkier, and heavier. This is 150 or so grams lighter than each of those, and yet its viewfinder is reputed to be the best, largest, clearest, and so on. Similarly, it is very well known for its range of excellent lenses, known as Zuiko, Olympus Zuiko lenses, very, very high quality. You may know that Olympus is also known for its microscopes and medical devices and so on using optics. So Olympus is not only a camera builder, but a famous builder of lenses, also used in several other camera types, such as Mamiya. Olympus OM-1 is about 510 grams. It has full manual focus, manual everything. It has a hot shoe. Its shutter speed runs from 1 second to 1,000th of a second, and bulb. Arguably, OM-1 is the most desirable of the Olympus range today for camera collectors. Now we'll go through this in great detail. We'll start with the top. The film advance winder is in the usual place that you would expect. Nothing strange about that. It has a very reassuring shutter release sound. That's the shutter release button over there, and it takes the release cable. The film sensitivity in ASA, which is the same as ISO, is on this dial over here. It can be adjusted by first pressing this small button over here and then rotating it. It's a little bit awkward, but it's hidden so that you don't accidentally change it. On this occasion, it's on 125, for example. On the left hand side, we have the film rewind crank over here. This is the lever over here. You can also pull it out to open the back door. You have a very obvious button over here, or lever, for on and off, only for the light meter. Everything else will work without it. As you can see, on top, there's nothing else. There's no shutter speed dial, for example, which is quite unusual, because one innovation of the design of OM-1 series is that everything is on the lens. There's a ring against the body over there, as you can see. That's the shutter speed. You can adjust that. Then you have the aperture on the front ring, and in the middle you have the focusing ring. So with your left hand, you can adjust everything on the lens itself without looking away from the viewfinder. That was the innovation of Olympus. Seems very logical, and as far as I know, almost no one else copied that. There's some resemblance to Nikormat FTN, but this is much better done. The front is absolute simplicity. All we have here is the delay timer, the traditional way. You pull it down, release the shutter, and goes bzzz, up. Here we have the rewind turn knob. Instead of being at the bottom like many other cameras, it's over here. So even with a motor drive attached, this can be used. Over on this side, we have mirror lockup. Turn that and mirror locks up. But what about the lens? Again, unlike many other brands, instead of pressing a button on the body or anything like that, everything is on the lens. So this silver button here, that silver button over there on the opposite side, you press that and turn left as you would expect, and comes out. Very simple. Put it back again. The same index that is used for these numbers over there, the same index is used for the lens to attach to the body. Turn right and it's locked. The lid conveniently fell down, giving me the idea of describing the lens to you. Yeah, this particular lens is a good one. Olympus Zuiko Auto S 1.4, quite a fast lens, 50mm. This has been film tested, and honestly it shocked me how good it was. I've tested a lot of cameras, and this little lens came out extremely well. I'll show you the pictures at the end. So that's everything on the front. Now on this side of the body, we have the PC connection. That's for the flash. In this century, all you have to worry about is to set this to X. Don't worry about the other ones. We don't have bulbs and so on anymore. Now here, on top of the pentaprism, we have a removable hot shoe. Very convenient also. You can rotate this like that. Take this off, and it actually is very pretty looking without that. Don't you think? This turns the car into a Ferrari rather than a family sedan. So I'll leave this aside here because it looks a lot better this way. This is of course the viewfinder. Extremely clear, large, bright, and it's almost shocking when you look through it, as small as this camera is, how clear it is. it's equal or better than the best of the Nikon cameras of the time. As I mentioned before, this particular model is OM-1N. So if we now look at the bottom of the camera, you find all the attachments for the motor drive directly at the base of the camera. This is the mechanical connection for the motor. This is the electrical connection. This is the battery chamber for the camera itself. And this is the connection for the tripod. The other models of OM-1, for example, the original OM-1 or M1, they required you to remove this base plate and put another one in for the motor drive. But this was the innovation, to build it all in so the motor drive just snaps on. To open the back, pull this up, the back opens. Similar to all 70s and 80s SLR cameras, especially the Japanese ones. Don't even mention the German ones with a crazy system of putting film in. You put the cartridge over here, push this down, take the film over the sprockets, put in one of those slots, give it a bit of tension with the winding lever, close this, take a few shots until the film counter on the right reaches the number 1 and you're ready to go. So let's have a look at some of the things that the lens does. We take the lens off. Demonstrate to you the mirror lockup. You can see the mirror over there, right? There, the mirror goes up, out of the way, and comes down again. So this was the brilliant design of Mr. Maitani, a very desirable SLR film camera today, even in 2023. It feels great in the hand, it's light, around your neck, it will not cause any problems carrying all day, and the quality of the pictures cannot be bettered. As simple as that. Let's look at Olympus OM-10 now. One generation later than OM-1, consumer-oriented, but also extremely well built, and you can't see any compromises in the Olympus quality. In handling, I could not tell the difference between the pleasure of using this versus OM-1. One major difference between OM-10 and OM-1 is that this one has an electronically controlled shutter, which means that without the battery, it will not work. Olympus OM-10 is approximately the same size as OM-1, approximately the same height. You can see the difference, a very small difference in the bottom and the profile, but otherwise they match almost exactly. However, amazingly, as small as OM-1 was, OM-10 is 80 grams lighter. So it comes at 430 grams light. It's very, very light compared to other cameras of the time. And we'll take you through now. First, look at the top. Film advance lever is in the usual place. film speed is selected on this dial over here. The way you do that is by pulling this ring up and then rotating it. For example, I'll just put it on 100 ASA or ISO. There is an integrated way of doing exposure compensation. As you can see, this ring also has 1, 2, 4 in 2 directions. Now what you do is, instead of lining up the white index to the ISO, you will adjust it by having one of those numbers against the ISO. So if I were to do this and put the 1 against the 100, so 100 is the fixed ISO that I want. If I put 1 against it, it means that I've adjusted it by 1 f-stop. So the blue ones means less light. The red ones means more light. Red means plus, blue means minus. I'll take it back to the original white index at 100. On top you see some selectors over here. One is B, and one is auto, which should be the default. That means aperture priority. That means whatever aperture you choose on the lens, the exposure is done automatically by the body. That is the shutter speed. You can see that this body on the mount doesn't have the ring for shutter speed selection. So how does the shutter speed work? This is the aperture ring. There's no shutter speed ring. So that is done automatically by the camera. At the bottom here, it says manual adapter. What is this adapter? It is the exposure selection adapter. Okay, that is this thing over here. Now this is an attachment that comes out, very simply plugs in, almost like a sound plug in an old phone. Plug that in. Also goes over this little tab over here for security. Just pops in, and that gives you this additional ring for shutter speed selection if you want. However, this is not a mechanical system. As you saw, that was an electronic connection. So it communicates with the camera body electronically to say you want to force the electronic shutter system to snap onto 125. That's how it works. But you don't need to have this. If you pull this off and you put this on auto, it means that it does aperture priority automatic exposure. You can even leave that on and bypass it by having this on auto anyway. And then anytime that you want to use it, you can switch this over to the manual adapter. So that was the way of Olympus providing manual operation as an override on the automatic operation. So this one ring does a lot of things. On the left side, you still have the Olympus very obvious on and off button, but also at the bottom you have a self timer here. When you do that, it flashes that light and also gives you a sound. Put that on. Also for battery check, you can push it the other way temporarily and gives you a sound. That means the battery is good. On this occasion, the battery is necessary for the camera to operate. Olympus OM-1 is seen as slightly more desirable than these series because if the electronics don't work in this decade of the 21st century, there's not much you can do. In fact, the repairing of one of these costs more than buying a new one. That's very sad. But this one is in perfect condition and might work for many years to come. Even if it stops working, we are not going to give up. Okay, let's look at the bottom of this. Very similar to OM-1 in functionality. This is the mechanical attachment for motor drive. This is the battery chamber. This is the tripod attachment, and this is the electronic attachment for the motor drive. So you don't have to take the bottom off to attach the motor drive. In this one, like all the OM series, the lens comes off by pressing this tab and this tab on the lens itself. Press, rotate left as if you're opening a tap, comes out. And no other fancy options like mirror, lockup, and so on and so forth. And other things are in the familiar location for Olympus. The rewind turn knob is over here rather than at the bottom that you would expect in Japanese cameras. It's over here, and the PC sync cable is over here. On top, of course, we have the hot shoe that can take almost any modern flash. Inside the viewfinder, it's very uncluttered and beautiful. On the left side, it has all the shutter speeds with an LED light against the one that is being recommended for automatic setting. If you go on to the manual setting, unfortunately it doesn't show you your selection of the manual shutter speed. You have to look at the dial itself, but at least it gives you what it recommends according to the light meter. So you can look at that and then dial whatever you want here. That's how this particular OM-10 works. All OM series cameras take the same lenses. One clever design by Mr. Maitani was that the shutter ring that you have in the single digit series is attached to the body rather than the lens. It's part of the mounting system. So the lenses are the same. Let's have a look. This is OM-1. We take the lens off. You find that the ring for the shutter selection remains. So this lens will work on OM-10 without any problems. The lens on this OM-10 is Olympus OM System Zuiko Auto S 1.8 f50 standard lens. Also a very high quality lens. Olympus lenses are universally very high quality. It's hard to find a bad Olympus lens. So here's the family photo. 2 generations, father and son, and grandfather and grandmother. And this is the new generation. We'll do videos of this generation later on. Please watch this space. If you have any questions about any of these, any comments, any suggestions, please let me know. Otherwise, we'll systematically go through and we'll cover every generation of every camera.